As I spoke about last week, this Advent season, what we're going to be spending most of our time on is meditating on how Christmas is both about giving as well as receiving. And that indeed seems to be the spirit of Christmas. And I might add that quite unexpectedly, in our Advent study for this year by Henry Nouwen, it turns out that he's doing exactly the same thing that I have been about, and that is the idea of the nature of Christmas being both receiving as well as giving. And I hope that all are following these Advent meditations. With that said, so in the spirit of giving, I feel so Oprah all of a sudden. Count them, 2 gifts are coming your way. The first has nothing to do with me, but it is because 19 years ago, Suhail and Alejandro were received with love into this congregation, and as a result, they have annually given a reception and giving a Christmas party, and this year is no exception, of course. It is this Saturday, the 11th, I think, at 6 o'clock, something like that? I think so. And those of you who have never been, you need to go. It is just a great deal of fun. The only thing you have to bring is your appetite, I guess, and your singing voice. Marianne, will you be playing again this year, I suppose? I hope so. And the lads will be singing. It's a lot of fun. Now, again, kind of Oprah-esque, in this happy spirit, because 19 years ago on January 1st, I was received by this fellowship to be pastor. I have a gift to give to you as well. I'll give that to you later if we have time. I do want to say it is one of the best gifts I've ever given, and everybody gets it. But I may have to wait till next week, although I do have it with me now. But I don't like to keep people late, and things like that. So if I have time, and if you remind me, I might give it to you, all right? Well, you'll get it sooner or later, but it is great. And Bryn and I celebrated that gift this morning, so, right? And it is wonderful, so.
By request.
What?
By my request.
By your request. Speaking of giving and receiving in this Advent book, Henry Nouwen, I wish to continue our meditation with reading in toto his words for last Friday, December 3rd. And you need to understand, I don't read this and then pattern my meditations after it. I don't do that. That'd be cheating. And I just find that it's interesting that great minds, as always, think alike, as so does great spiritual hearts beat in the same cadence. And so the old Dutchman and I now are beating in the same heartbeat of love. That said, this is what he says: fear frequently leads us to strike first. This is the scripture. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits in his word, I hope. My soul waits for the Lord. Psalm 130. We consider waiting a waste of time. I'm going to just do a sidebar. Have you noticed in today's society we can't be quiet? Have you noticed that yet? We always got to be, oh, hello, yes, I'm important. I'm on my cell phone again. Hi, yes, I'm talking. I'm talking. I can't be quiet. I'm talking. I gotta keep doing things because I'm important. And so now, and of course, it's saying you're not important, you're unimportant. This is not important. You're not spiritual. You haven't learned a thing because you don't know how to be quiet. We consider being quiet, we consider waiting a waste of time. Because our culture is always saying, get going, do something, show you're able to make a difference. Don't just sit there and wait. Waiting seems like a dry desert between where we are and where we want to be. We do not enjoy such a place. We want to move out of it and to do something worthwhile. Waiting is even more difficult. Now, this is important. Waiting is even more difficult because we are so fearful. Not just as individuals, but as whole communities and nations. Fear explains why it is so hard to wait and how tempting it is to act. This is the root of a first strike approach to others. Those who live in a world of fear are more likely to make aggressive, hostile, destructive responses than people who are not so frightened. The more afraid we are, the harder waiting becomes. Oh, joy. There are no coincidences, as I mentioned, and certainly there are no coincidences for those who abide in Jesus Christ. It's as if God, knowing beforehand that our church would be vandalized, along with other places of worship, gave us these words to consider, and I'm so glad about that. In fact, I think everybody knows, maybe you don't know it, but 2 weeks ago, I think it was Friday the 19th, sometime that evening, early in the morning, the 20th, something like that, a rock was heaved into a basement window. As a matter of fact, this rock, 32-pound rock. It's pretty heavy. I better put it down. That rock. And what anger must have motivated someone. Incidentally, this rock looks exactly like the rock that was thrown through the window at the Chabad Center. Had a picture on Channel 8 TV. So obviously the perpetrator went to some quarry or someplace and picked up a truckload or a pickup truckload or something with a half a dozen rocks. And this is what the person used, this rock here. I have better use for it. Anyway, what anger must have motivated the perpetrator? Now we know this act of violence was directed at Temple Shir Tikva, whom we invited here to this fellowship to worship every Friday on Shabbat in perpetuity as far as we're concerned. They're good people. Rabbi Balaban's a great guy, and they've been a real blessing. Anyway, because we invite them in, clearly this church, because we invited them in and also because Jews were in the church, a rock was heaved, and I guess to scare people or to send a message, or I don't quite understand why. But I guess it was to get our attention, and I don't know. We'll find out why. Thus noted, the question for this congregation, seems to me, is what is an appropriate and decidedly Christian response, not reaction, response to this incident? Well, we cannot be afraid. We don't have that luxury because we abide in the love of Christ. And as we all know, and as Scripture has clearly told us, and as hopefully we all live, there is no fear in love. So if you love Jesus and abide in His love, then you can't be afraid. I'm not afraid. Why would I be afraid? I'm not afraid. Now, because we're not afraid, we can't hate. Well, hatred comes out of fear. Well, if you're not afraid, there's no reason to hate. And if there's no reason to hate, then there's no reason to strike back in anger or, viciousness or retribution or anything like that. Hatred is opposed to love. And so that's out as well. So we can't be afraid and we can't be hateful. So what are we going to do? Well, we have no power to find the vandal. I'm not going to get in my car and drive around town and try and find the vandal, And even if I found the vandal or we found the vandal, we don't have any authority to prosecute. We don't have any authority to convict, and we don't have any right or authority to condemn. So what are we going to do? And we can't whine. That's not permitted either. So we can't hate, we can't whine, We can't have fear. We can't convict. We can't prosecute. We can't do much of anything, except not a whole lot. Except we do have a power that obviously the perpetrator doesn't have, and maybe we can work on sharing that power with that person. And that's the power of love, as proven by Jesus Christ and demonstrated in his followers for centuries. It's a particular kind of power, and it's called the power of forgiveness. Power of forgiveness. Forgiveness is the intentional decision to receive a sinner into one's heart and then give that person the love of Jesus Christ. Reception and giving. Sounds very Adventish to me. Reception and giving. After all, God so loved the world, God so received the world, that he in turn gave his only begotten Son. See, receiving and then giving. So God receives and then God gives. I like that. And we do the same. We will do the same. By receiving the sinner into our lives and into our hearts, and in turn giving that person a wonderful Christmas present. That's what I'm going to give to this person, a wonderful Christmas present. I'm going to give this person the gift of Jesus Christ. And I'm going to do that by forgiving the person. That's what I'm going to do. And I think that's what we need to do, that we will do as well. Now, as a result, then, from this day forward, this rock serves no more as an instrument of destruction, but rather as a symbol of peace. And this rock no longer is a symbol of hatred, but one of love. This rock is no longer a tool of condemnation, but rather one of forgiveness.